before the glint of silver ever caught a trader's eye in the high valleys of Bhutan, life moved to a different rhythm. Imagine, just for a moment, a world without the jingle of coins in a pocket. A world where wealth was measured not in metal, but in the things you could hold, grow, or make. This was, honestly, the reality of Bhutan for centuries. Daily life was a delicate dance of exchange. A farmer with a surplus of red rice would seek out a weaver with a beautifully crafted woolen cloth. A herder from the high pastures, rich in cheese and butter, would descend to the valleys to trade for grain, tools, or perhaps the vibrant dyes needed for their textiles. It was a system built on trust, on relationships, and on the tangible value of goods themselves. This was the world of barter. This system, while intimate and deeply woven into the fabric of society, had its limits. It worked beautifully within a single village or a neighboring valley where everyone knew each other and understood the value of local goods. But as Bhutan's horizons began to expand, the cracks in the barter system started to show. How many bags of barley was a roll of silk from across the mountains worth? Was a block of salt from Tibet equivalent to a basket of chilies from the lower hills? These questions were not just difficult. They were a constant source of negotiation and potential disagreement. Trade was slow, cumbersome, and often inefficient, a major hurdle for merchants looking to do business with the great trading powers of Tibet to the north and India to the south. The challenges became even more pronounced when dealing with foreign traders. Merchants from Tibet carrying precious salt and wool, or those from the plains of India with their cotton textiles and metalware, operated in economies that were increasingly reliant on currency. They arrived expecting to trade for something universally accepted, something easily divisible and portable. Bhutanese traders had to navigate this complex world with their bundles of rice, their packets of medicinal herbs, or their rolls of handmade paper. It was a difficult and often disadvantageous position. The lack of a standardized medium of exchange made Bhutan a complicated partner in the great caravan routes that crisscross the Himalayas, limiting its economic reach and influence. So, life went on, a tapestry of intricate exchanges. A craftsman might spend weeks carving a wooden mask, only to trade it for enough food to last his family through the winter. A monastery might receive donations not of money, but of butter for its lamps, grain for its monks, and silk for its thangkas. It was a system that sustained a unique and self-reliant culture, but it was also a system straining under the pressures of a changing world. The need for something simpler, something more universal, was growing. The seeds of change were being sown, not by merchants, but by a visionary leader who would unite the valleys and, in doing so, create the very conditions that would demand the birth of a national currency. The story of Bhutan's first coins is inseparable from the story of its birth as a nation. In the 17th century, a remarkable figure arrived from Tibet, a man who would change the destiny of the scattered, warring valleys forever. His name was Ngawang Namgyal, but he is revered today as the Zhabdrung, the one at whose feet we submit. He was more than a religious leader. He was a brilliant strategist and a nation builder. Through a combination of spiritual authority, political skill, and military prowess, he subdued the local chieftains and religious rivals who had kept the land in a state of constant conflict. He unified the country, giving it a name, Drukyul, the land of the thunder dragon, and a unique identity. This unification was not just a political act, it had profound economic consequences. The Zhabdrung established a dual system of government, with a spiritual leader and a civil ruler, and administered the new state through a network of magnificent fortress monasteries known as dzongs. These dzongs became the centers of administration, defense, and religion for their regions. To run this new centralized state, you needed resources. You needed to pay soldiers, feed monks, and fund the construction of these incredible structures. You needed a system to collect taxes from all corners of the newly unified kingdom, Relying on collecting taxes in the form of butter, rice, and cloth was becoming incredibly inefficient and complicated for a state with national ambitions. The need for a more standardized system was becoming urgent. A central government cannot easily manage warehouses overflowing with perishable goods from every corner of the kingdom. It needs a form of wealth that is easy to count, simple to store, and straightforward to transport. The answer, as it has been for civilizations across the globe, was money. A national currency would allow the state to collect taxes in a uniform way, pay its officials and soldiers, and fund public works with far greater efficiency. It was a tool of statecraft, a symbol of central authority as powerful as any fortress wall. The very act of issuing a coin bearing the mark of the state was a declaration of sovereignty. Furthermore, a unified Bhutan was a more confident player on the regional stage. Trade with Tibet and India was vital, providing essential goods and a market for Bhutan's unique products. As political stability grew, so did the ambition of its merchants. A national currency would streamline these international transactions, placing Bhutanese traders on a more equal footing with their counterparts. It would grease the wheels of commerce, making it easier to calculate profits, pay for goods, and build the kind of commercial relationships that would enrich the kingdom. The political unification under the Zhabdrung didn't just create a nation, it created the absolute necessity for a national currency. The stage was set for Bhutan to take its first tentative steps into the world of coinage. The journey towards silver began with a more humble metal copper. Long before the first shimmering silver coins were struck, Bhutanese artisans were already skilled in metalwork. They crafted magnificent bronze statues for their monasteries, intricate copper butter lamps, and ornate ritual objects. This deep, existing knowledge of metallurgy was the foundation upon which the kingdom's first minting experiments would be built. The transition from crafting a statue to striking a coin was a significant leap, but the fundamental skills of melting, casting, and shaping metal were already there, waiting to be adapted for a new and revolutionary purpose. The first Bhutanese coins were not silver, but simple copper pieces known as matram or chetram. These early copper coins, appearing around the late 18th century, were a momentous step. They were often crude, irregularly shaped, and inconsistent in weight. They were not made in a grand, centralized mint, but likely produced in various local workshops, perhaps even within the dzongs themselves. The methods were basic. Artisans would hammer or cast small pieces of copper, impressing them with simple designs using hand-carved dies. The designs were not complex portraits or grand inscriptions, but often consisted of geometric patterns, simple Buddhist symbols like the endless knot or the wheel of Dharma, and sometimes characters that were more decorative than literate. These were the first sparks of a monetary economy. Despite their crudeness, these copper coins were revolutionary. For the first time, there was an object created specifically to be a medium of exchange. A farmer could now sell his surplus rice for a handful of these copper pieces and save them. Later, he could use those same pieces to buy a tool from a blacksmith or cloth from a weaver. It broke the direct link required in barter. It introduced the concept of stored value, of wealth that didn't rot or spoil. These small, rough bits of copper began to circulate in local markets, especially around the administrative centers of Paro and Thimphu, slowly introducing the population to the very idea of using money in their daily lives. This early period of copper coinage was a crucial training ground. It taught the Bhutanese the basics of minting. They learned about the challenges of creating consistent dies, the difficulty of controlling the weight and purity of the metal, and the logistics of distributing the new currency. It was a period of trial and error. Some coins were better made than others, and their acceptance would have varied from place to place. But they served their purpose. They laid the psychological and practical groundwork for something more ambitious. They proved that a currency could work in Bhutan, and they built the skills that would soon be needed to work with a much more precious and politically significant metal, silver. The move from copper to silver was not just a change of material, it was a powerful statement. By the early 19th century, Bhutan found itself in a complex and shifting geopolitical landscape. To the north, Tibet was a major cultural and economic power, with its own well-established silver currency that flowed across the Himalayas. To the south, the British East India Company was relentlessly expanding its influence across the Indian subcontinent, bringing with it the powerful silver rupee. Bhutan was caught between these two giants. To assert its own sovereignty and engage in trade on its own terms, Bhutan needed a currency that could command respect. Copper was fine for the local market, but silver was the language of international trade and power. The decision to mint silver coins was therefore driven by a powerful mix of economic necessity and political ambition. It was a direct response to the world outside its borders. Using Tibetan or Indian silver coins in its own markets was a tacit admission of economic dependence. It undermined Bhutan's sense of itself as a sovereign, independent kingdom. By producing its own silver coins, Bhutan was planting a flag. It was declaring to its powerful neighbors that it was their equal, a distinct political entity, with its own authority and its own robust economy. Every silver coin that crossed the border into Tibet or India was a small ambassador for Bhutanese independence. The first Bhutanese silver coins, known as Deb rupees, emerged during this period, likely around the 1830s. The name itself, derived from Deba, a title for a ruler or regent, tied the currency directly to the state's authority. This was a significant step up from the anonymous copper matrams. These were not just tokens for the marketplace, they were official issues of the Bhutanese government. The impetus came from the central administration, which recognized that to truly function as a modern state, it needed a high-value currency for large transactions, for paying officials, and for conducting trade in valuable goods like musk, textiles, and forest products. This leap into silver coinage also reflected a growing sophistication within the Bhutanese state. It required sourcing the raw silver, a metal not extensively mined in Bhutan, which meant it had to be acquired through trade or by melting down foreign coins and bullion. It required a higher level of minting technology to create more uniform and intricate designs than those seen on the early copper pieces. The motivation was clear. Bhutan needed to modernize its economy to safeguard its independence. The gleam of silver was the gleam of sovereignty, a bold and necessary step for the land of the Thunder Dragon in a rapidly changing world. Creating these first silver coins was an act of profound national expression. The minting process was a far cry from the industrial factories of Europe. It was a craft rooted in Bhutan's artistic traditions, carried out in workshops within the great dzongs of Paro, Punakha, and Trongsa. These fortresses were not just administrative centers, they were hives of activity, home to the kingdom's finest artisans. Here, blacksmiths, goldsmiths, and engravers turned their skills to the task of creating money. The process was entirely manual. Silver, often obtained by melting down older Tibetan coins or Indian rupees, was heated in crucibles, poured into molds to create small, rough discs, or hammered into sheets and cut. Each blank coin, or planche, was then struck by hand. The designs of these early Deb rupees are a fascinating window into the Bhutanese worldview. They are rich with symbolism, a language understood by everyone in the kingdom. Instead of a monarch's portrait, which was a common feature on European and Indian coins, the Bhutanese chose powerful Buddhist emblems. You would find the 8 auspicious symbols, known as the Tashi Tagi. These included the endless knot, representing the interconnectedness of all things, the parasol, symbolizing protection from harm, and the victory banner, signifying the triumph of wisdom over ignorance. These were not just decorations, they were powerful blessings, turning each coin into a small talisman, an object of spiritual as well as economic value. The method of striking the coins was physically demanding. An artisan would place a silver blank between two hand-carved steel dies, an anvil die set in a block of wood, and a punch die held in the hand. Then, with a heavy hammer, they would strike the punch, transferring the intricate design onto the soft silver. This manual process is why no two coins are exactly alike. Some are struck off-center, others show cracks from the force of the blow, and the depth of the impression varies. These errors are not flaws. They are the signature of the human hand. They tell a story of a craftsman, of a specific moment in time, of a kingdom forging its identity one hammer strike at a time. The lettering, often in a local script, was frequently crude and sometimes even retrograde or jumbled, showing the engravers were often artists, not scholars. The coins were not just metal, they were a canvas for Bhutanese identity. The choice of symbols was a deliberate act of cultural assertion. In a world where the coins of powerful neighbors were flowing across its borders, Bhutan chose to represent itself not with images of worldly kings or military might, but with the timeless symbols of its deep Buddhist faith. This made the coins uniquely Bhutanese. They were a declaration that the kingdom's strength and identity were rooted in its spiritual heritage. Every transaction, every exchange using these coins reinforced this message, spreading the symbols of Bhutanese culture throughout the kingdom and beyond. Once minted, these new silver coins began a journey, flowing out from the dzongs and into the lifeblood of the kingdom. Their role was twofold. Firstly, they were an essential tool for the state. The central government used Deb rupees to pay for major expenses. This included salaries for the Druk Desi, who was the civil ruler, and other high-ranking officials, payments to soldiers, and the financing of significant construction and repair projects on the dzongs and monasteries. The coins were also the primary unit for taxation. Wealthy families and regional governors would pay their dues to the central government in silver, which was a far more manageable system than hauling cartloads of grain or butter across treacherous mountain passes. The coin became the sinew that bound the administration together. Secondly, the coins transformed the marketplace. While barter and copper coins continued for smaller, everyday transactions, the silver Deb rupee became the standard for high-value trade. A merchant selling a prized bale of silk, a landowner selling a plot of fertile paddy field, or a herder selling a number of yaks would now conduct the transaction in silver. This simplified commerce immensely. It created a clear and widely accepted measure of value, reducing disputes and making trade faster and more transparent. The coins were especially vital for cross-border trade, allowing Bhutanese merchants to deal with their Tibetan and Indian counterparts using a currency that, while uniquely Bhutanese, was made of a universally valued metal. The symbolism embedded in the coins also gave them a role beyond the purely economic. Monasteries became major holders of these silver coins. Donations from patrons, which might once have been made in goods, were increasingly made in silver. The coins, adorned with auspicious Buddhist symbols, were seen as fitting offerings. They were stored in monastic treasuries, contributing to the institution's wealth and stability, and used to commission religious art, purchase ceremonial items, and support the community of monks. The coins themselves, carrying blessings in their design, were imbued with a sacred quality that blurred the line between the secular and the spiritual. However, the circulation of these handmade coins was not without its problems. Because they were struck by hand, their weight and silver content could vary. Savvy traders and money changers would weigh individual coins, and lighter or less pure ones would be valued less. This led to the practice of testing the coins, often by cutting into the edge to check the quality of the silver, which is why many surviving examples bear these test marks, or schroff marks. Despite these inconsistencies, the silver Deb rupee successfully established itself as the backbone of the Bhutanese economy for much of the 19th century, a tangible symbol of a kingdom navigating a complex world on its own terms. The 19th century was a turbulent time for Bhutan, and its silver coinage tells a story of this internal conflict and external pressure. The country was not yet the stable monarchy it would become. Power was often contested between the powerful Penlops, the governors of the eastern and western regions, based in Trongsa and Paro respectively. This rivalry often spilled over into open conflict. During these periods of internal strife, the control of minting became a tool of power. A successful Penlop might seize control of a mint and issue coins to pay his followers and assert his authority. This led to a fascinating proliferation of coin varieties. These locally issued coins, while still based on the Deb rupee standard, often had subtle differences. The quality of the silver might change, the weight could be inconsistent, or the dies used for striking would feature small variations in the design. Numismatists, coin experts, can study these minute differences to trace the political tides of 19th century Bhutan. A coin with a slightly different arrangement of symbols might indicate it was struck under the authority of the Trongsa Penlop, while another variation might point to the Paro Penlop. The coinage became a kind of historical map, charting the rise and fall of different factions within the kingdom. The coins were witnesses to the power struggles that would ultimately lead to the consolidation of power under a single ruler. External conflicts also left their mark on Bhutan's silver. The Duar War, which took place from 1864 to 1865, with the British Empire, was a pivotal event. The war, fought over control of the fertile plains known as the Duars that lay at the foot of the Bhutanese hills, ended in defeat for Bhutan. The subsequent Treaty of Sinchula forced Bhutan to cede territory and accept a British subsidy. This event had a direct impact on the coinage. The influx of British Indian silver rupees, paid as part of the subsidy, became a major source of silver for the Bhutanese mints. For decades afterwards, Bhutanese Deb rupees were struck to a weight and fineness that was intentionally similar to the British Indian rupee, to facilitate trade and exchange. This period demonstrates how coins are more than just economic tools, they are political artifacts. The variations in design reflect a decentralized and fragmented power structure. The debasement of silver content in some issues might hint at a government under financial stress, perhaps needing to fund a military campaign by stretching its silver resources further. The standardization of weight to match a foreign power's currency shows a pragmatic response to a new geopolitical reality. The silver coins of 19th century Bhutan are not a single, uniform story, but a complex chorus of different voices, reflecting a kingdom in the throes of profound and often violent transformation. The internal conflicts of the 19th century came to an end with the rise of one of its most powerful figures. Ugyan Wangchuck, the Trongsa Penlop, proved himself to be a master diplomat and a formidable leader. He consolidated his power, brought stability to the kingdom, and in 1907 was unanimously elected by the clergy, officials, and the people as the first hereditary king of Bhutan. This event, the founding of the Wangchuck dynasty, marked the beginning of modern Bhutan. It also heralded a new chapter for the nation's currency. Under the centralized authority of the monarchy, the era of competing local coinages came to a close. King Ugyan Wangchuck and his successor, King Jigme Wangchuck, embarked on a path of gradual modernization, and the coinage was a key part of this project. One of the first major changes was the move towards machine minting. The old, inconsistent, hand-hammered coins were a relic of a bygone era. To be a modern nation, Bhutan needed a modern currency, uniform in weight, size, and design. The first machine-struck coins were introduced in the late 1920s. These were produced using coining presses, which resulted in perfectly round, cleanly struck pieces that were a world away from the charmingly irregular Deb rupees of the past. The designs also began to change, reflecting the new political reality. While auspicious Buddhist symbols remained a central feature, new elements were added. Inscriptions became clearer and more standardized. For the first time, some coins featured the name of the reigning monarch, a clear statement of the new centralized royal authority. A beautiful silver coin, the half rupee or zangtrum, was struck under King Jigme Wangchuck. It featured an intricate design of symbols within a central square, surrounded by the 8 auspicious symbols in the petals of a lotus, a stunning blend of traditional motifs and modern minting technique. This was a currency that looked both to Bhutan's sacred past and its modernizing future. British influence, which had begun with the Treaty of Sintula, also played a role. The new machine-struck coins were often minted to specifications that aligned with the denominations of the British Indian currency system. This was a practical measure, designed to simplify trade and financial interactions with British India, which remained Bhutan's most important partner for trade and access to the outside world. The era of the handmade Deb rupee was fading. In its place was a currency that was more uniform, more reliable, and more suited to a nation cautiously stepping onto the world stage. The silver coins of the early monarchy were a bridge between the old Bhutan and the new. The 20th century brought waves of change that would eventually spell the end for circulating silver currency, not just in Bhutan, but across the world. As the century progressed, the value of silver as a metal began to rise dramatically on international markets. A point was reached where the metallic value of a silver coin, the value of the silver it contained, was worth more than its face value as money. When this happens, coins rapidly disappear from circulation. People hoard them, melting them down for their bullion value, rather than spending them. This global economic reality made it impractical for Bhutan to continue using silver for its everyday currency. The final transition began in the mid-20th century. In the 1950s, Bhutan continued to issue silver coins, but the writing was on the wall. The kingdom was further modernizing its economy and administration under King Jigme Dorji Wangchuck, the third king, often called the father of modern Bhutan. He introduced the first paper currency and established the Bank of Bhutan in 1968. The final move came in 1974 with a major currency reform. The old system was replaced by the ngultrum, a new currency pegged at par with the Indian rupee. The ngultrum was divided into 100 chetram, creating a modern decimal system. This reform marked the official end of the silver coin as a tool of daily commerce in Bhutan. The old silver Deb rupees and zangtrums were withdrawn, replaced by modern cupro nickel coins and colorful banknotes. They vanished from the markets and shops, but they did not vanish from history. Instead, they began a new life. They became historical artifacts, cherished by families as heirlooms, a tangible link to their grandparents' and great-grandparents' time. They represented an era of incredible change, of the journey from a collection of feuding valleys to a unified sovereign kingdom. The irregular shapes and hand-struck marks of the old coins told a story that the new uniform currency could not. Today, these historic silver coins are highly sought after by numismatists and collectors around the world. Each coin is a miniature piece of Bhutanese history, telling a story of faith, politics, conflict, and craftsmanship. But the story of Bhutanese silver did not end there. The Royal Monetary Authority of Bhutan, understanding the power and beauty of coinage, has embraced a new role. While silver is no longer practical for circulation, it has become the perfect medium for creating stunning commemorative coins. These modern issues, struck in pure silver using state-of-the-art technology, are works of art. They celebrate Bhutanese culture, wildlife, and important national events, carrying the legacy of Bhutan's silver journey into the 21st century and sharing its unique identity with a global audience of collectors.